All right, we're going to be talking about Avowed today. Going to talk about what I think this game is going to do, whether it's going to be a success or a failure. Spoiler alert, I think it's going to be a failure. And as to why that is. Also going to talk a little bit about some of the differences I have with a lot of other YouTube creators as to the reasoning why. Because I think there's a lot of things that are being talked about right now that are not actually an issue, that are really being hammered on, but I don't think that they're the underlying cause of the issues with this game. But we're going to talk about all that. I'm going to talk about the numbers because I like talking about the numbers. But before we do, gameplay today is Stalker 2. I'll put a link in the description, but you guys know about Stalker 2, so you can get this on your platform of choice. I'll put the Steam link though in case you need it. So let's just go ahead and get into some of the numbers here and discuss Avowed. So here's the Steam page. You can see that there's not a lot out there because it's not released yet. But some interesting things to point out is some of the user tags, LGBTQ, politics, political, are like the top 3 right now. Now, I don't know why that is. It's either because people are seeing this as, a failure on those points. Like they think that it's going to get political, and it very likely will be political, because this is Obsidian and they do have a track record. LGBTQ+, I don't know if that was because of the anti-wokes or because of the wokes. It might be a combination of the two. Who knows? Because, this is the world we live in, is that even anti-wokes will use the same tags as the wokes to describe a game because they're going to, warn gamers that it's going to be, this political, pushing their political opinion on you and whatnot. Whereas the wokes are going to say, well, this is safe for LGBTQ people, and this is safe for people that have the right political opinions and whatnot. So it could be either one, to be honest. But, so I don't think that is a sign one way or another, but it's a sign that likely these things are going to be a part of this game because people are making it a part of that game. And I think it's because of the development studio, and a lot of stuff that they say on social media is very, very charged one way. And kind of instigates a lot of these things that people are talking about. Now, one of the things that a lot of people are talking about is that the character designs are going to be this woke, ugly mess and whatnot. And, oh, look at this ugly character in the game. It's just going to be horrific. And it's all, it's based around the character designer, which is understandable. But my whole point is that a lot of times that is not an indicator of whether a game is going to be woke or not. Just based on the character designer being able to make ugly characters. Now, the character designs that I've seen, they don't have any of this like, oh well, these particular skin conditions have to be in there because this is something that marginalized people suffer, and therefore we have to have this, and we have to have that, and we have to have top surgery scars and all that. I haven't seen any of that. At least not yet in the character design. Now, that doesn't mean it's not there, but it's not out there from what I've seen. What I've seen is just a very ugly looking character being designed in the character designer. And I guess my major point with that, and I've put this out there on X, is that usually when you're creating a customizable character, you're going to take those shape keys and exacerbate them to a level of extreme beyond what normal people would be capable of making. Now, ideally, what you would do is you would make that level of extreme and then rein it in the character designer, which doesn't appear to have been done. But yeah, I mean, you do that so that people can make the characters they want to make, even if that feature, like, if the jawline is extremely exaggerated or extremely, exaggerated one way or another, or the chin is extremely exaggerated one way or another, it allows you to make the character that you want to make with a little extra wiggle room in case you need to push that out beyond what the artist intended. So I mean, I've even done this. I haven't done this with human characters with that, but I mean, I don't really do human characters. I'm not that good of a modeler. I pay somebody to do it for me because I can't do that in Blender. So, but I've done that with, like, buildings and vehicles and whatnot, is just go to the extremes so that when you customize that shape and you can tweak it, you can make what you really want. So they did go a little too far in my opinion, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that that's just part of the intention is to go extremes so that you can have that room to customize your character. But aside from that, the characters don't look egregious in this game. Nothing that I've seen has given me, Veilguard vibes, as it were. And I've seen a lot of gameplay footage. I've seen a lot of, trailer like this. Just, screenshots and what have you. And all the characters don't seem too, there's not a lot of ugly characters out there in this game. It is weird, but that's the art style. And you can take that or leave that. Personally, I guess I don't really like the art style, but taking an objective lens, the character designs themselves are not ugly. So I don't think that that's an indicator that this game is going to fail, but there are other indicators that we're going to talk about in a minute. First and foremost, I would say that the game that I would compare this to closest is The Outer Worlds, and that's their previous big game from Obsidian Entertainment. Now, this was done on a shoestring budget, whereas Avowed is supposedly not a shoestring budget. It's a very large AAA budget. But I think what we're going to see with Avowed is very much what we saw with Outer Worlds. Based on the gameplay footage, based on some of the early stuff that people are talking about, it is very much the same length, or at least a similar length to Outer Worlds. So you're not getting more because of that huge inflated budget. You're just getting the same kind of thing with supposed higher quality, even though, in my opinion, this quality is not higher than the Outer Worlds. It's just a generation removed in terms of technology, but it's not objectively better for spending that much more money. It doesn't look any better, in my opinion, than the Outer Worlds did. If the Outer Worlds was made on its budget today, it would look like this. So I think they've overspent by a lot, and that seems to be a theme in this day and age. Spending massive amounts of money for your budget to develop it and market it, and then not even coming close to making that money back in sales because the game just doesn't have that kind of a pull. It doesn't have that audience to get interested in it, to play it. And this is going to be a case like that. Even the Outer Worlds did significantly better in terms of numbers. Let's do that comparison. So this is the Avowed numbers. The follower count, we don't have user counts yet because it's not out yet. But they're hovering around 51,000. Now we are, a couple of months before release. However, if you look at the Outer Worlds, on release, it was 141,000, and even significantly before it, leading up to it, it was in the hundreds of thousands. So we're looking at Avowed numbers of follower counts, at least, to be half, at best, of the Outer Worlds. And the Outer Worlds, it didn't do great. I mean, it sold about 1 million copies. So, if you translate one for one, and I don't think it's going to be, I think it's going to do better than this. But if you translate one for one, you're talking about 500,000 copies on Steam. So you're looking at 1.5 to 2 million total altogether. You're probably looking at closer to 2 or 3 million copies. But given their budget, given what people are saying about the budget is significantly higher than the Outer Worlds was. I mean, we're talking another game with a budget of 100+ million. At least that's the impression that I get. Now that could be wrong, but I haven't seen real numbers on the budget of this as of yet, and that'll eventually, I'm sure, come out. But from what I hear, from what I sense about this is a 100 million plus budget for this game. So that's not going to be made back, I don't think, because you're talking at best 1.5 million copies, at best 2 million copies, let's say. And that's not enough. 2 times what? Let's say $50, because, $60. So yeah, maybe they would make their development budget back if it was 100 million, but their development plus marketing, because marketing is usually twice, one more than development, so it would be about 200 million total all in. They're still going to fall 80 million short at that 2 million at $60. If Steam is taking a cut and Xbox and PlayStation are taking a cut. So yeah, they're going to fall short. They're not going to make their money back. They're not going to make a profit for sure. And it's definitely not going to be a success. Even if they made a profit, it's going to be a small one. So yeah, and then couple that with the fact that this game is coming out. Well, it just said it there. So yeah, pre-order now, available February 18th. Now, what's coming out right after that? What's coming out right after that is Monster Hunter Wilds, February 28th, 2025. So 10 days after that is this hugely interesting, popular game with a recent history of successes. People are going to buy this over Avowed for sure. Not to mention the fact that their followers are massive. I mean, 280,000. So this game is gonna pull sales from Avowed, and that has a lot to do with the economy, the state of things in this day and age. People are going to choose which game they want to buy. They're not going to buy both. Very few people will buy both games. Even if they're interested in both games, they're probably going to tend towards sacrificing Avowed and saying, "Oh, I'll wait for it to go on sale," and then forget about it, and then buy Monster Hunter Wilds to play, and then play this game, because this, again, it has the numbers, it has the follower count, it has the interest, and it has a history of successes that is far more recent than Obsidian has. And you can see that from the Outer Wilds, that even the Outer Wilds, it didn't do too terribly great on Steam. 20,000 simultaneous users at launch, and then it dropped off a cliff to practically nothing. And that is a reflection of the kind of game it was. It was a game that people were very interested in, and then they played it and they said, "Oh, this is what this is." Now, they've already learned their lesson with this. Most gamers, if they remember the Outer Worlds, they're going to look at Avowed in the same way, and they're going to say, "Oh, well, this is just like the Outer Worlds. I didn't really like that game. I'm not going to bother with this game. I'm going to go play Monster Hunter Wilds and have fun with that." So those are the things I kind of see happening here. Now, another comparison I can make is the follower count for this versus another RPG, fantasy RPG, one that was massively successful. So 51,000 followers. Remember that number. And then we're going to go to Elden Ring, and we're going to look at Elden Ring's follower count. So 416,000, and even considerably before, you're talking 200+ thousand followers. So over four times the follower count leading up to their release, and just going up and up and up. And then it continued to go up and up after that. Whereas if you look at like the Outer Worlds, it leveled off and just, that was it. So yeah, it leveled right off and lost all its steam after launch, whereas Elden Ring continued to build. So I think we're going to see more like this and more numbers, kind of like this, just less, half. So like starting at 10 or 12,000 and then dropping off a cliff from there. That's kind of my prediction. Now, I could be wrong, but based on what I'm seeing here, based on the numbers, based on the sentiment, based on what people are kind of talking about, I think I'm pretty much on point. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about with this is, and I'll go back to gameplay footage, why not? You can see me suck at Stalker 2. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is that a lot of the gameplay, the early gameplay footage, a lot of the people that are covering it, I've seen a lot of smaller channels, but everything is very overly positive about this game. Everything that I have seen is talking very, very positively about the game. Oh, it's great. I thought it was going to be bad, but it's going to be great. And look at the gameplay, and look at this, and look at that. And it's all a very positive spin. I think what you're looking at is the new generation of Access Media, where they're getting YouTubers that will play ball because they have smaller channels, because they are looking to get that influence, get that open door to get into the commentary space and get some popularity, and get that access and keep that access. So I think you're seeing that a lot with a lot of those kind of videos, because, I mean, let's face it, when you have early access to a game, you're going to want to get early access to another game by that publisher or by that studio. And if you look, I mean, Xbox Game Studios is publishing this. So it's not just Obsidian Entertainment. So even if you're like, oh, well, Obsidian kind of sucks and all that, but it's Xbox Game Studios, that's a big umbrella. And if you get access to Xbox Game Studios games, you get access to a lot of games that you can play early and talk about. So I think that has a huge impact on all of this. I think you're looking at, the new generation of access media, these smaller YouTube channels and not so small YouTube channels as well, talking with an extreme positive spin to ensure their access going forward. In the vacuum that is forming from the old school gaming media sites, I think you're seeing a new generation crop up, and they're trying it again. They're trying it all over again, and it's not going to work again because it didn't work in the first place. But I think that's what you're seeing a lot, because it's a lot of very, very positively spun stuff. And we actually saw that with Star Wars Outlaws. Star Wars Outlaws had the same kind of thing. It had a mixed, kind of a mixed bag more than Avowed does, but it was definitely there. There was a lot of positive spin around that game as well leading up to it. And we saw how that went. So that's the situation. I think we're looking at another stinker, another one for the ages. So this is going to be squarely in that 2025 worst game of the year category, I think. However, it's very early, so there's a lot of opportunities for these studios to make a way worse game than Avowed will be. So it's going to be an interesting year, for sure. So that's what I got for you guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you like these kind of things, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you guys later.